Well, good morning, ladies. Wow, it's a slow-moving morning. Almost, almost as if we'd had a snowstorm or something. So, ladies, good morning. Welcome to Common Ground. This is actually the last time in 2022 that we'll be meeting in this space because next week it's brunch. And you're going to go directly actually to your brunch table, not even your small group room, but right to your brunch table. You'll learn more about that in a little bit. And brunch means two things. One, it means that we have a celebration because we have just completed a study, and we will have completed the book of Romans, which is pretty exciting. And brunch also is a chance for us to just give great kudos and gratitude to Keystone for all that they graciously and lovingly and hospitably welcome us into this space each week with Common Ground. And I mean, seriously, walking in with those snowflakes, I mean, how incredible, or snowballs or whatever. They started those in January. There are 3,333 of them. In case you wanted to know, put on by two lifts, and that was an all-day Monday project, and it is so, so cool. But first things first, and we need to finish the book of Romans before we have our celebration of having finished it. And so today we have Hannah is back with us, who's going to lead us in our praise and worship. And then Marie Clark, who was one of the Common Ground attendees, she is going to give the focus. She, if you were here last winter when we did the names of God, she will look familiar to you because she not only did a focus piece for that, but she also introduced her aunt, who was the author of our study. So you saw her twice during the winter session. So Hannah, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Good morning. If you'd like to stand and sing with me, I would like to invite you to. I also invite you to breathe out all the things. Oh my gosh, there's so many things, right? All the good, all the bad, and all the in between. So just let it out. Let this time be a time of just resting in His presence because He is here. He is within us. He is among us. Whether or not we can feel it or sense it, it doesn't deny that reality. So I hope and my hope and my prayer is that you would let go of the things that are crowding your mind, the things that are weighing on you, and just rest in His presence this morning and be encouraged to take whatever your next steps look like with Him, and just rest in Him. And if just resting in Him is your next step, then do that. I invite you to do that. I'm going to sing a song. We are going to sing a song that we sing here fairly frequently now at Keystone. It's a fairly new song to us as of maybe the late spring or summer, something like that. And I did sing this with you in the beginning of the season here in the fall. So if you don't go to Keystone and you're not familiar with it, you may remember it from then. It's called God is Love, and these words are powerful. And I hope that you enjoy them. So I invite you to sing with me. You don't just tolerate us, you don't have somewhere to go. We're not your trophy children, you abandon when we roam. Your mercy's not a favor, and your presence isn't rushed. Oh no, our God is love. Let's sing that one more time. You don't just tolerate us, you don't have somewhere to go. We're not your trophy children again. So help us to receive all of your gifts this morning. Your gift of your overflowing love, your acceptance, your strength, your peace in the midst of trials. Help us to walk into your arms that are open for all of us. Thank you that we have nothing left to fear. We praise you. Give us ears to hear what your Spirit wants us to know this morning. Give us soft spirits. We pray these things in your precious name. Amen.
Thanks, Hannah. I'm going to try to move this over so I can hold my stuff. I think I'm good. I'm just going to move this over so I can walk and not run into things. Oh, good morning, ladies. I am so truly honored to be here today. Can I see all of you? Okay. I should be wearing a T-shirt that says hot mess on it because that was my morning. It goes that way, doesn't it, when you have to do something important? Just this morning I was like, my oldest is trying to tell me she doesn't need to go to homeroom. My youngest is chasing the dog around and asking, where are my scrunchies? Where are my scrunchies? And I don't know where any of her scrunchies are. My 11-year-old's trying to make a smoothie with the neighbor kid who just came down to ride with us, and the dog is barking. And then the painter said that, he's ready for us today. We've been waiting for him since February, and my kitchen needs to be completely cleared this morning. So we are here. We are good. The Lord is wonderful. And truly, I was joking with the ladies yesterday. I was like, in a way, there couldn't have been a worse week to pick. And in a way, there could not have been a better one because it's just absolutely incredible to be here. In this season, Hannah, you did exactly what I was going to say. We all just need to take a deep breath because we're all feeling this anxiety and this busyness right now. And I just want to thank you for making today a priority because really you all had other things to do. You all did. There's other things that are pulling on us. And yet I know that we're all longing for community and for connection with God, and that we're starving for what our hearts need. And we really just want to learn about Christ. And that's what's been amazing about this group, because I feel like that's just been the overwhelming sense that I've gotten from everybody. We have such a common goal of wanting to fall more in love with Jesus, and we do it by learning from each other and just gleaning from each other. So take my ramblings today. I am sorry. I am no Vaughn, and I am no Karen. I'm Marie Clark. I know I'm not a public speaker, but I'm here. I have ADHD. My brain and my mouth do not always match up, so we're going to do our best today. Like I said, my name is Marie Clark. I have 4 crazy children between almost 9 and 16 years old. It's a busy time of life. My husband and I each own our own businesses. I'm a photographer. I am also an Uber driver, not professionally, but I am. I'm a personal chef. I'm a professional sock finder. An errand runner, a sister, an aunt, a friend. And most importantly, I am a daughter of the King. And I have to say that to myself because I need to remind myself that all the time and not lose sight of who I am in the midst of all the other jobs and responsibilities that I have that rise to the top, right, every single day, like finding scrunchies and things like that. I just want to pause for just a second because we are here. It's the last day of November. And we're sitting, all of us. We live here in this culture, and we're sitting between these 2 holidays. And they're kind of just like these capstones of our year. And so I want you to think of something really quick. This last week, I want you to just have like an image of something that was really wonderful. Maybe it was like a grandchild that did something awesome, a sweet moment that you shared with your kids or a spouse, or your favorite food maybe that you even ate. I hope that there really was something beautiful and peaceful and that there was a great moment. But a little bird told me something about you ladies, and that is that you are people. And when you are a person and you live in this society and you live in this broken world, my guess is that you each hold some tension in your lives somewhere in some little corner. Maybe it's right in front of you. Maybe it's back in your mind or your heart, but I think that we each also hold tension. So I wanted to ask today, Did you have any tension in this last week? We're moving towards Christmas. Is there a strained relationship or a disappointment? A failing body or fear about the future? Tighter finances this year? An empty seat at the table? A broken heart? You know, Romans is probably not what you'd call a holiday book of the Bible. We don't usually bring it up at Christmas necessarily. We usually want to talk about the Christmas story. But the cool thing about Romans is that really what we've been studying can fit into every season of our lives. It is exactly what we need. And what a better time to have studied this as we move into this intense month, right? We all feel that as women, like this intense month where everything is extra. There are extra responsibilities, there's extra people, there's extra calories, there's extra, snow that we have to get through. There's just extra events and extra emotions. And so to have studied this and to be finishing this today is such a gift. I don't know how much each of you have been able to do this study. You may have answered every single question in this cute little book. Or maybe you haven't been able to find your book in a couple weeks. Or maybe you're kind of like me and you did somewhere in between one or the other, and you showed up, but you're still showing up because we're trying to learn about this. And you don't have to worry. I have a little summary of Romans because today we're really finishing it. I get the dessert portion of Romans, the very end. Save the best for last. No, okay. Save the big chunk for last. In Romans, what's interesting is that I felt like there's a lot of big things that we study. There's a lot of big words that we don't use in our everyday language even. Justification, sanctification, doctrine, union with Christ, adoption. This is all the things that we've been learning. Romans is one of the most read books of the Bible, actually. And it is succinct, clear, and systematic in its presentation of the Christian gospel. And interestingly, it's definitely, I've read many places that it's one of the first books that many new believers read or that people point them to because it is full of greatness and favorite verse options. Many of us have favorite verses that we stumbled upon in Romans. And it's just presenting the whole gospel. It's kind of a package deal. It's not all that we need, but we really can find so much of Christ, of the salvation story and the gospel message in Romans. And today we're going to study the last chunk of it. And some people refer to this last chunk because it kind of encapsulates what the mission of God is. God is not only calling people to himself, but he is calling us to live out his mission. And so we're going to look at that a little bit today. There were three little sections, at least in my mind. I kind of did this on my own, but there were three sections sort of that stood out in these last three chapters. The first one in chapter 14 is kind of a conversation about food, and it's kind of a conversation about being judgy. And if you read it, you would have realized that many times what Paul is saying to these people is, if something's unclean to them and it's not to you, don't judge them. And, some people have weaker faith. Some people have stronger faith. Don't judge them. Some people think this day is holy or this day is holy. Don't judge them. And he kind of goes on and on about that. And so I had to think about this a couple times and reread it a few times because part of me was just thinking to myself, well, Paul, I don't really have an issue with food. I mean, I don't care if you guys are keto or vegan or eat Pop-Tarts every morning. Like that's not our tension, right? Food is typically not our tension. But yet, I bet if I said the words COVID vaccine or politics or when we should celebrate Christmas with the in-laws, that would maybe bring us a little bit of tension, right? So the funny thing about all these things is that really in the end, what you can realize is what Paul is saying is these things they're not the things that matter. They're not the things that are saving us, right? These are trivial matters. And we've got to stop judging each other. And it's funny to me that they felt like they were judging each other so much because I feel like that is what so much of our society is based on. It's all imagery and who's better and who has this and how can we keep up. And it's so easy to be judgy. And it really kind of hit me between the eyeballs a little bit after like the third time I read through it. And I thought, how much time do we really spend thinking about other people and the way they should be doing things. The kids' teachers, our politicians, our in-laws, our husband, our kids, our neighbors. Like, how often do we think about these things that really just aren't, they're not salvation issues. They're just things that trip us up and they cause disunity. I want to read really quick from my favorite devotional. This was just a couple days ago. I just can't say it better than this, so I want to read just a little section. Paul David Tripp says, part of the blindness of sin is our tendency to be more irritated and more concerned about the sin of the people next to us rather than our own. Because we are blind to our own sin and our eyes are open to theirs, we tend to see our neighbors as bigger sinners than we are. And when you fall into comparing yourself to another person, you almost always conclude that you are more righteous than he is. And when you conclude that you are more righteous than he is, you begin to minimize your own need for grace. I think that Paul knew that this was going to trip us up. And it, on one hand, is so small, and yet it's those small things that really can add as like a buildup in our lives, and it calluses us to the reality of what we should really be living. And it's just so easy to feel judgment, to pass judgment, to feel more righteous than others. And when we feel more righteous than others and we put ourselves in that position and we minimize our need for grace, what we're really doing is saying, grace is God. We're pushing him down to elevate ourselves up. And our need for God is less. And so we're taking that place. And that is wrong. And interestingly, I think I really started thinking, I think that this is what is very much dividing our church and people from the church, because they look at Christians and they say, I don't want anything to do with that. I don't want to be with people that are like that, so I have other places to go. I think Paul knew that then, and we can be reminded of that now, that this is not our job. And really, ultimately, I was thinking, well, why do we judge people? Like, what is even the point of that? And I really think that it's that God is just saying, look at me. Like, you're putting yourself in my shoes. You don't need to be the God. I am here. Look up at me and stay focused on me. And when you can stay focused on me, you have no need to worry about the people around you, because I've got this. I'm going to take care of this. And that has been such a good reminder to me this last couple weeks. It's not our job. It is not our job. It's his job. The next section that Paul talks about is ministering to the Gentiles. And he specifically says that he loves to go to the unreached people groups. He doesn't want to be there if someone else has already been there. He wants to go to the unreached people groups. That was his jam. I wish I had a movie about him and could see what he was doing. I think he'd be maybe like a hippie kind of guy, just like going into these cool unreached people groups. But it's really cool to read about that. And a really little fun fact about me is that my dad is actually a citizen of the Central African Republic. And the reason why he is because my grandfather, whose name is was Paul, he is with Jesus now, he was a missionary, and he brought his family over to unreached people groups in Africa and raised his children there with my grandma. He made that his mission, and then he came back and taught at Baptist College and taught other people to be missionaries. But growing up, we heard all these cool stories of Grandpa, with these people, and Grandpa shooting elephants and all these cool things. But he never made us feel like that had to be our job necessarily. But our job was to be just as missional as he was to the people here and to whatever we're doing. And his own children, they did not become missionaries, but they became a surgeon and a publisher and director of children, and just like living out that faith. And I think that what's really important is that we need to remember that we are called to minister. We may not be called to minister like Paul, but we are called to minister right now. And I think we kind of know that in our heads, but let's be honest. How often are we really living that out in our daily life, like actually ministering to the people around us and making that our mission? The Bible is full of people that felt like they didn't have anything to offer to God. And I feel like often we can feel like that we don't have enough. We don't have the right things. But God is in the business of taking nothings and making it into something, ladies. He asked Moses, what do you have? And he's like, I don't know, I got a staff. And he's like, boom, got it. I'm going to turn that into something. God asked the woman whose husband had died, what do you have? Jars? Boom, got it. I'm going to turn that into a miracle. Jesus asked the men, what do you have for these people? A couple loaves and some fish. Boom, got it. I'm going to turn that into a miracle. He's in the business of doing this because really what we have absolutely is not enough. We don't have what it takes to spread his gospel on our own, but if we have something that we can offer to him, he will give it back and he will turn it into so much more. I don't want you to discredit today in this season what you have to offer, because God is in the business of taking what you have, and he is so much more than enough for what we have or what we need. And really, he will take what we have and he will make it miraculous, and he will accomplish his work through us with whatever we have. If it's a few minutes of time, if it's a few dollars, if it's a little extra attention to someone who needs it this season, he will take that and he will do his thing with it, because that is what he's all about. People in the Bible said, I'm not old enough, I'm not smart enough, you don't know who Pharaoh is. And he said, yep, that's okay, because I am going to be with you. Am I not going to be with you? I have promised you that again and again, and you need to expect that I am going to show up. And he will. He always has, and he always will. He will show up, and it may not be in the way that we always think it will be, but he will. Let us get into the habit of expecting him, especially in this season. When you have tension in the next couple weeks with gifts and parties and people and wondering where all this stress is coming from, let's expect that he is going to show up in this chaos and in this confusion and in this very dark and twisted world. He's going to show up and he's going to do some amazing things because we're trusting that he is going to do that. The last section, Paul starts naming some of his friends. So if you need any baby names, I just wanted to let you know. Aquila is on the list, Ampliatus, and there's twins, I believe, Tryphena and Tryphosa. These are Paul's friends, and he talks about them, and he thanks them, and he tells the Romans to thank them. And what I think is so cool about this is that I don't think Philologus knew that he was going to be in the Bible. But these people were the support of Paul, and here they are. And we're talking about him today, Philologus. God bless him. We're going to meet him in heaven someday, and we're going to be so excited. You know, Paul was in the habit of seeing the people around him and encouraging them and asking other people to encourage them. May we be that this season to other people. This world needs encouragement. Your kids need encouragement. Your parents, your spouse, your friends, man, we need extra doses of that this season. Even if people look like they're okay on the outside, we all really need it. So take that into consideration for sure. At the end of this section, I want to get through this real quick because, they said I can go to 11, right? Okay, sorry. All right. All right, there's a lot of good verses in Romans, but I honestly think that this is my favorite. It's going to surprise you. The ladies I was with yesterday know what my favorite is. At the very end, Paul says, you need to be obedient. Thank you for being obedient. This is going to bring peace. This is going to be what I need from you. And this will not be easy. He says this because he knows this is not going to be easy. It was not easy then, and it is not easy now. To be a sheep among wolves and to live in this world and to really live out this mission, it's not easy. It's countercultural. It's something that we have to constantly swim upstream for. And at the end, he says this little verse, and it kind of hit me, and it made me laugh. It says, the God of peace will soon crush Satan under your feet. I was like, what? That is the cool. I'm going to write that on my son's wall. That is so cool. The God of peace is going to crush Satan under your feet. It seems like a 10-year-old would like that, right? So he's not saying like, warrior God is going to crush, or like majestic God is going to crush. He says the God of peace is going to crush Satan under his feet. And all I kept thinking of is, I don't need to be, it's your job. You've got this. Ladies, he's got this. He has all the sin. He has all the evil. And someday he will bring it under his reign. And it gave me so much freedom. because this isn't up to us anymore. We don't have to worry about this. It's going to be okay. It is going to be okay. Every situation and every tension that we've had or are thinking about right now, it is going to be okay because he is going to bring peace to our world, and he is going to take the sin and the evil, and he will crush it. And there's nothing we have to do about it. It is in his control and his reign. And that really can give us so much peace because it's out of our hands. And when we believe that, we don't have to judge other people because it's not in our control. And when we believe that, we can call out how he wants us to minister to those. And when we believe that, we know that we are called by name to be part of his family, and that just takes all fear and shame and responsibility off of us, and it puts us on the cross. Puts it on the cross, and that's what he came to do when he came as a baby. So, our recipe for the perfect Christmas is going to be two things. I think if we can focus on these, we will definitely be able to keep this burden off of us this season. And the recipe is this. Number one, believe that you are who God says you are and who he has made you to be. He has made each one of us beloved. He has made each one of us new, and we are cherished. He came for you, for your heart, for your attention, for your families this season. And we also just need to believe that God is who he says he is. He is perfect, and he has it under control, and he will take all of this, and he will make it perfect in his own time. So if we can believe that this season, I hope that we can truly be these people who go through our world and have this incredible story and light that people are attracted to because we are doing something a little bit different than they are, you know? And we will be the people that people will look at and just say, I want that. I want that, not because you are who you are, but because God is who he says he is. And when we believe that, it will move many, many wonders in this world. Now, can I have 2 minutes to tell a quick story? Okay, I'm going to tell this really one quick story. I didn't get a testimony as part of my thing, so I stole one, okay? I listened to a lot of podcasts in the fall because I'm on my computer like 100 hours a day. And I heard this little story that I just wanted to share. There's a man named Jamie. He is probably in his 50s right now. He became a police officer, and he decided very early on this exact thing. I need to believe that God is who he says he is in my life. And if I'm going to do that, then this is going to change the way I am a police officer because I believe that God is enough for me and he is enough for everything that I do. Well, this amazingly brought him a lot of success because he was figuring stuff out that people couldn't figure out because he had another resource. The CIA went and took this guy and they said, please work for us, please work for us. And he's like, you guys aren't going to like you're not going to like my methods. And they said, you're right, we don't. So you're going to have to do your own thing, but we would like to use you because no one else is doing things like you. Well, he got invited to Washington, D.C. a while back, and he was with all of these leaders in CIA. And we're talking stuff that we never hear about because they're going into terrorist countries and places that are unknown. They didn't even know each other's names, okay? One man came up to Jamie and he said, I need to know that you're the real deal. Because you can say all this, but I'm not sure this is real. If God is who he says he is to you, then you know, it's really kind of hard to believe. And he said, well, then why don't you come with me on a mission? So after months of clearance issues and all this stuff, Jamie went into an undisclosed, he wasn't able to say, place somewhere in the Middle East to meet with a terrorist organization to try to talk them out of the fact that they were kidnapping children and women and taking them and trading human lives with other terrorist groups. It was absolute evil, terrible mess. So he's able to take this man with him. I don't even know this man's name, so I'm just going to call him the man, okay? He takes this man with him, and he said, listen, this is what we're going to do. We're going to be taken in the nighttime, in the dark, and we're going to be put in a Bedouin tent, and we're going to sleep there. And then the next morning, we're going to have another tent, and we're going to go eat there. And they're going to let us eat by ourselves because they don't like to watch us. And then after that, we're going to go, and we're going to have these negotiations. And we're going to go back and forth, and we're going to do this for a few days. And the man said, okay. So they get there at night, and they get into their beds, and they sleep, and they go to the next morning, and there's 3 of these guys from America. And they get into the next tent, and there's the food, and the food is set up for 4 people. And the man says, well, why is it set up for 4 people? And he says, I don't know. And he's like, well, is it always set up for 4 people? He's like, I don't know. And then they go to the terrorist group, and they talk to them, and they come back. And they do this for a few days. And every time they do this, in the tent with the food, there were 4 place settings. And finally, this guy just went crazy, and he was like, I have to ask them. So in their language, this man says to them, I need to ask why there are 4 place settings at this table. And they said to him, well, it's for the 4 of you. And he turned to Jamie and he said, there aren't 4 of us. And he said, I know. And he asked the man, he said, well, where's the 4th guy? And he goes, well, you guys and your guard outside. And he turns to Jamie and he said, we've got a guard that we can't see? And Jamie just nodded. And he went back and he goes, well, what does our guard look like? And now they're starting to understand that these guys cannot see him. And they said, well, it's interesting because we were going to ask you guys why your guard has a sword. And he goes, Jamie, our guy has a sword. He has a sword. And then this terrorist group started saying words that I cannot pronounce about angelic beings and about godly presence that they could not see. Because, ladies, I think at the end of the day, if we knew all that God is capable of around us that we could not see, it would not scare us. It would bring us peace. So let's move into this season knowing that there is so much around us that we do not see. The goodness of God is around us. He has the power. Then he has the power to bring this angel with the sword. And he has that for us. And so we can move into the season with so much peace. Let's pray. Father, thank you so much for this time, and thank you for this season that we truly can celebrate you. May you be the focus. May our mission to spread your love and your word be our focus this season, more than gifts and chaos and cookies and family. May you be the center of who we are and the peace that we have. May we move into this season with that peace and joy, just knowing that we can rest in you. You give us everything we need, and we can trust you that you are who you say you are, and that gives so much joy. Thank you for these women and for all of the minutes and hours and days poured into this group and this time together, that we can lean into your word and learn from you. May we continue to just grow and glean from the words of Paul. Thank you for him. We're excited to meet him when we see you someday face to face. In your name, amen. Thank you, ladies. Have a great week.